Are you a healthcare professional working with breastfeeding infants? Wish you knew more about assessing and treating tongue ties? Earn continuing education credits and transform your practice with the Professional's Guide to Tongue Tie in the Breastfeeding Infant. It's perfect for any practitioner who works with infants and their mothers, especially those working through feeding challenges. Learn to identify who needs treatment, build a qualified care team, and provide holistic care options. Discover the ins and outs of frenotomy, including procedure preparation and best aftercare practices. By the end, you'll be confidently supporting breastfeeding families armed with the latest protocols and be part of an interdisciplinary community of experts just like you. Tongue ties are nothing new, but the right way to assess and treat them is. Ready to make a real difference? Join now and become a tongue tie expert. Sign up today at tonguetieexperts.net/professional and become the evidence-based resource that your community needs. To show my gratitude, I'm offering you a special discount as a podcast listener. Use code PODCAST40 to save 40% off today. You're listening to the Tongue Tie Experts podcast, a weekly program providing information and support for those families impacted by tongue and lip tie and the professionals caring for them. I'm Lisa Palladino, a midwife and a lactation consultant with over 30 years of experience. If you are a parent looking for answers or a professional who is curious to learn more than what you learned in school on this topic, welcome. This podcast is for you. A gentle disclaimer. Please do not consider anything discussed on this podcast by myself or any guest of the podcast to be medical advice. The information is provided for educational purposes only and does not take the place of your own medical or lactation provider. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Lisa here. So great to see everyone today. If you're live with me on Instagram today, January 17th, Tuesday, January 17th, and it's been a while since I've come live on Instagram for Tongue Tie Tuesday, but I'm so happy to be back and so happy to see all of you joining me. I have so many new followers and I'm so excited about that. Thank you so much for liking the information I'm trying to disseminate into the universe and for recommending me, sharing my posts, sharing the information, because my mission is for all breastfeeding families or all families in general to reach their goals in feeding and get the support that they desire. For those who don't know me, my name is Lisa Palladino. I'm a certified nurse midwife and an IBCLC and an RN in Staten Island, New York. I am in private practice, limited private practice, but I'm also the person behind the Tongue Tie Experts brand, including the podcast. So today, if you're listening to this podcast, if all the tech magic works, this podcast was originally an Instagram Live where I asked my audience to ask me questions so that I would have some questions to answer. And if you're watching me live on Instagram as I'm recording this, you're very welcome to ask me questions, but you've already sent in questions and I'm going to get to as many of them as possible. And the other thing I just want to say is this is the anniversary month of the Tongue Tie Experts podcast. And I am beyond thrilled with the response to the podcast. It's been so much fun to produce. and grateful to my husband, Russ, who helps me by helping me produce it and edit it and does all that kind of tech stuff. The response has been amazing. It's now a year. It'll be a year. I believe it was the 25th, January 25th, when we made our very first episode. And we're approaching 17,000 downloads, which is, I don't know. To me, I can't believe that many people have listened. It just makes me so, I don't know, warms my heart. Let's put it that way. So if you're listening on Instagram, watching this recorded anywhere, and you haven't followed the Tongue Tie Experts podcast, please follow us. It does help. If you like it, rate it, give us a review. That's even better. And share it with those in your life who you feel will benefit from it. And that could be any medical providers. It could be parents, grandparents, anyone you think would help. So that will help us. So let's get to your questions. And again, you're welcome to ask me questions if you're with me live on Facebook. Otherwise, I will just start with the questions that you have sent in, which I've gotten so many really good questions, difficult questions, some of them, but I'll do my best. Okay, so the first question I have here is, should all tongue and lip ties be corrected? And if so, are there any exceptions? And the quick answer to that is that, in my opinion, and of course, this is always my professional opinion, and it's for education matters. I have to start with that disclaimer for all of you over on Instagram. This is not medical advice. Please, this is just my own opinion based on my many years of experience. I don't think that every visible oral restriction should be released. I only think that oral restrictions that are causing symptoms based on the function should have any kind of correction. So that's my quick answer. There are also times when it doesn't feel right to do the release to the family, and you follow your instincts. This is not something that has to be done. This is something that you educate yourself about, get the proper support, figure out your goals, and make a decision accordingly. No one should feel that they have to have a procedure on a baby. But that being said, if your goal is breastfeeding and breastfeeding isn't working well, if the baby cannot get nutrition either from breast or bottle, if infant is struggling, I would highly suggest it. But I would never say that, blanket statement, all ties need to be released. And I think I answered the second part of that question, which was, what are the instances where you would not recommend tongue tie corrections? I had an instance very recently in my practice where the mother was struggling because she had a postpartum hemorrhage. She wasn't well. Her blood pressure was not stable. Baby wasn't feeding well. But I told them, and there was a functional restriction, but there also was a milk supply concern. So I like to optimize everything else to make sure that the tongue tie is actually what's causing the problem in the feeding. So in that case, I said, no, don't do this yet. Find out about it, educate yourself. And I gave them my course and all the information they need to learn about it. But for now, take care of mom, take care of getting all the other ducks in a row, as I call it in my course. Okay. Hope that helps. Someone asked, can you overcorrect a tongue tie? I don't think I'm the right person to ask that. I would ask that question to a dentist or someone who is performing the procedure. I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I don't know if you mean make too much of a wound, cut too much. I'm not sure what that means. Is it possible to cut too much, to laser too much? Absolutely. Someone wants me to show a step-by-step oral exam. That's kind of difficult on Instagram. Even in my office, when I've tried to record the exam. It's so difficult to see inside a baby's mouth. It's so difficult for me to see inside the baby's mouth. Never mind to get I don't have that fancy equipment to be able to do that. I wish I did. So many people are joining us. Thank you for joining us if you're on Instagram here today. Is tongue tie revision, and I like the word release. I feel I want to call it a release. So is tongue tie, I lost it. Is tongue tie release harmful for babies in any way? And so I would say that the word harmful is sensitive, right? We never want to harm. First, do no harm, right? In the right tool, in the right hands, under the right circumstances, you're not harming, you're helping. It could be harmful if you have an inexperienced provider, somebody who doesn't do this often. It could be harmful if it looks like a tie, but it's not, because there are cases where it looks like a tie, but functionally everything is okay. So that could be harmful. If there's not a lot of preparation prior, both in education for the family of how to handle things, what to expect, the exercises to do, the all that surrounds it, not being ready with pain relief, it can be harmful to do a procedure on a baby without functional support around that. And what do I mean about functional support? By functional support, I mean, usually if we're talking about a breastfeeding baby, that would be an IBCLC, right, who's trained in oral ties. If the baby is bottle feeding or a little older, it would be an SLP, who's a feeding therapist who's also trained in oral ties. So yes, if it's done wrong, if it's done by an inexperienced provider, if it's done at the wrong time, it could be harmful. So I take this very seriously. I'm not a blanket like, oh, everybody who has what looks like a tie should get clipped. If you have been following me for a while, you'll notice that there are very, very few pictures of inside baby's mouth on my feed, on my website. I don't allow the pictures in the Facebook group for this very reason. I don't want everybody who thinks they see a tie to call it a tie and send for release, because that could be harmful if it's not a true oral restriction.
Are you a solopreneur or small business owner? If so, I want to ask you a question. Do you know exactly how much money you made in your business last month? Or can you find this number right now with just a couple of clicks on your computer? I'm Sarah Finns, finance coach and accountant and creator of Easy Business Bookkeeping, a course and system for tracking your business finances with ease. I want to bust the myth that managing the money in your business needs to be time-consuming and stressful, or that you need to be a finance professional in order to understand them. With Easy Business Bookkeeping, you will get the tools and support you need to finally gain clarity with your finances so you can grow your business and your impact. Want to learn more? Go to www.sarahfinns.com/TTE podcast for details. That's sarahfinns.com/TTE, like tongue tie experts, podcast. And I'll see you on the inside.
Okay, so Anna Bouguet asks on Instagram today, if my baby sleeps with their mouth open, could it be a sign that they have a tongue or a lip tie? It's possible. It could also have to do with the baby's tone. It would have to, is that baby snoring? Is the baby breathing through their mouth or their nose? We want everybody to breathe through their noses. Everybody, all humans should be breathing through their noses. So if that baby is sleeping with its mouth open a lot, I would suggest a full assessment, and not necessarily your pediatrician. I would have an assessment by either an IBCLC who has TOTS training, or TOTS meaning tethered oral tissues or tongue tie training. I often use that abbreviation. Or an SLP who's familiar, right? With an with an older child, we would say a myofunctional therapist, but a myofunctional therapist is not for an infant. So depending on the age of the baby and if the baby's breastfeeding. If everything else is good, if baby is feeding well, if the baby wasn't able to breastfeed and now they have open mouth posture, that would be a concern. We want to think about the whole oral structure and how it develops. And if breastfeeding isn't working, there's a reason, right? So, and often it has to do with the oral structure. So it could be a structure, it could be a tone issue. I would definitely maybe an OT who has training, right? And somebody else just asked a similar question: how to teach a 5-month-old baby to hold her mouth closed when she is awake. So there are exercises to do. I would work with, again, either an OT or an SLP or someone who has training in oral feeding, an IBCLC, personal intervention to figure out why is that baby holding her mouth open, right? And sometimes it's just posture, but sometimes it's something else going on. Maybe an ENT, definitely if you're getting that feeling that something isn't perfect, follow your instincts and check it out. Okay, we have a lot of questions about open mouth posture. So we're recognizing that we should have our mouths closed, right? Okay, so somebody asked, if the tie is released at 6 months, but the baby is still having digestive issues 8 months old, can it be related? Possibly. Digestive issues can mean a lot of things, right? So with tongue tie, we often see reflux. We often see a lot of gas. So I would look back at that tongue tie again. I would also look at food intolerances. And we have 2 great episodes on the Tongue Tie Experts podcast if you want to search for them about food allergy versus tongue tie. One is just myself with my own experiential advice and following up to an episode we did with Dr. Trill all about food allergy and how the symptoms of food allergy and tongue tie can overlap, how they can be misconstrued for each other, confused, how we can have one or the other or sometimes both going on. So again, if you're just joining me on Instagram, if you'd like to ask a question, just type it out and I'll get to it. In the meantime, I'm answering questions that were already sent in. So, baby at 11 months had a tongue tie cut at day 1 of life. No follow-up available. Should I seek a private one? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that, especially if there's symptoms, right? But I'm not a fan of cutting the tongue tie right away. And that might be controversial for some people. But first, I want to make sure that the tongue tie is a problem, right? Baby's born all curled up. Let that baby relax a little. Let's see what's going on before we interfere in the mouth and cause more trauma. So if there are symptoms, yes, follow up for sure. Absolutely. Empower, nourish. Hi, currently taking your course. Thank you for being in my course. Still a little confused regarding buccal ties. Are you able to talk about how to identify a buccal tie? Yes. Okay, so always with controversy when we're talking about oral restrictions, and buccal ties are the latest controversy. There are some people that say they do not exist and we should not do anything about them. How to identify a buccal tie is just lifting up, and on Instagram I could show you, on the video I can show you, you just lift up like this and you could see a connection inside. It would be in here and you could see a little frenum in there. It's hard to see that on the podcast, but I would look for frenums attaching the upper lip in the cheek area further back than the middle. The attachment goes from the cheek to the gum line. Is the buccal tie causing a problem? A lot of times, no. A lot of times we leave them. The times that I recommend releasing buccal ties is when we've done everything else and there's still a problem. That being said, I have had some experiences where the baby, oh, I see Sarah, you just joined. Hi, Sarah. I see the baby just can't open their mouth at all. I mean, literally, like the buckles are so tight that the baby cannot get its mouth around the breast, around that areola complex. So sometimes buckles are released when the tongue and lip tie are released. It's very individual. I hope that helps. If since you're in my course, if you have any further questions, bring that question over to the Facebook group, to our private course Facebook group, and we'll talk all about that, because that's a great conversation to have. And it's okay to be confused. I'm still a bit confused about a lot of things. Let me just see if I missed. I think I got all the questions. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I think we've gotten all the questions. That's wonderful. So if anybody else has any questions, one of the questions that I do get very often is how to find a provider and who is the provider to go to. And in case it's not clear, the way our philosophy is about tongue tie experts is that for any infant, any baby under of breastfeeding age, which can be up to 3, 4, I've taken care of 3-year-olds who are breastfeeding, under the ability to follow directions and do oral exercises, a myofunctional therapist who is not also licensed as another kind of provider who can, you'd never want to do myofunctional therapy on an infant. Again, I'm going to ruffle some feathers. There is no such thing as myofunctional therapy on an infant. An IBCLC, an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, is the go-to person to take care of breastfeeding infants whenever there's any problems breastfeeding. And that includes tongue and lip tie. Treating, air quotes, treating tongue or lip tie without an IBCLC involvement in a breastfeeding infant can be dangerous, because we need a full assessment of the mother, the infant, and the feeding. And only an IBCLC is qualified to do that, right? So we want a functional assessment of the dyad, the mother-baby complex, the feeding complex, to see what's going on beyond the mouth, right? Because breastfeeding is not just about the mouth. It's about the whole body. It's very holistic. It's about the interaction between the parents. It's about how a parent holds a baby, how often a baby's getting fed, what's the milk supply like, what's the mood, what's the emotional status, what's going on, right? So, and it's very individualized, and IBCLCs are trained for this, right? Older kids, 4, 5 or up, I believe the age is, can be seen by myofunctional therapists as the function. Because if their function is speech, if their function is anything in the oral motor cavity, then they should be seen by someone who's licensed to take care of them. And then the mother doesn't come into play. If the mother comes into play, but she doesn't need an exam to be able to take care of that child, right? And also we can, that their kids are at the age where they can learn how to do exercises. So myofunctional therapy is exercises. This is a very controversial topic, and I don't like getting into controversy. And sometimes I get myself in trouble for not knowing all the ins and outs of it, but that's how it is now. So if anybody has any questions on scope of practice, that's where the assessment should come from. Then, in general, a dentist, a pediatric dentist who is laser trained, and I prefer I'm not making any money from saying this. I prefer light scalpel because I like that laser. I'm experienced with their work and their work ethic and how the machine works and the results it gets, and done extensive learning about the type of laser it is and the temperatures and all the physics behind it, enough to know that that is the type of laser that I would recommend for my own family. Okay, another question. Empower Nourish asks how to best assess a tongue tie. I'm having such a hard time getting a baby to lift their tongue. So you want to assess from the back. There's pictures in the course, and if you're not finding them, again, message me under the course and I will show you. You want to lift from behind and lift up the tongue. It's not easy. And this is why I don't like taking care of babies with teeth. It can be dangerous, but it's necessary. Question: how to diagnose if my 11-year-old has tongue tie. An 11-year-old, I would look for a myofunctional therapist or a speech language pathologist that has oral motor training, and look for symptoms. In an 11-year-old, it would be speech problems, a history of feeding problems, maybe sleep apnea, snoring, attention deficit, difficulty with certain foods, picky eaters, lots of older symptoms. I have some episodes on older kids. If you want to go back and listen to Tongue Tie Experts podcast episodes, look for the ones with the speech language pathologists and oral myofunctional therapists. Anyway, okay, I think we have answered all the questions. I thank you all for being here. We're going to have lots of episodes coming up on the Tongue Tie Experts podcast, which by now, I don't know if you've realized, it's going to be every other week for now. I just take a step back and reassess. I had a very traumatic kind of end of last year with my dad was sick and he passed away right after Thanksgiving, and I'm kind of just getting back to things after that. And I appreciate everybody's patience with me as I start 2023 with a slower rate of putting out podcasts, but it's going to be consistent. And the podcast episodes that I already have recorded are so exciting. We're going to have a lot of information about older kids, stories about one particular story. If you don't already follow Airway Revolution. The Airway Revolution Foundation is spreading awareness. I'm proud to be on their board of directors and be a part of that organization and their documentary to raise awareness about airway disorders. And we're going to have Sydney Avis and her dad on the podcast in a few weeks. And we have some dentists that are coming on. And I have a grown-up person who went through tongue tie release, and it was a pretty traumatic experience for her. And she's going to tell us her story. So stay tuned for that. And if you're listening, seeing this live and it's before January 19th, please tune in to Easy Business Bookkeeping. You can see the post that I made today. We're having a special free webinar, free workshop, all about, for those of you who are in private practice and are entrepreneurs, small business owners who want guidance in how to handle and track and know what you're making with your finances, right? And get ready for tax time. So I found Sarah's system and I've learned so much, and I use her system, and it has literally changed my life and my business. And she says one thing that I never, know your money, grow your money. I never realized how true that was. Once I was able to assess what was going on, I was able to see where the best places to make money is and where I was spending, and fix things around and adjust things, and feel so much more comfortable about my business finances now. Anyway, so join us for that workshop. If you're listening on the podcast, The link will be in the show notes. If it's after the workshop, there'll be a link about Sarah, and you can still find her information. And if you're on Instagram or Facebook watching this, you can go right into the my bio or in the notes. Actually, there's 2 posts about it. There's a post in the story where you can link it. Thank you for being here today. Have a wonderful Tongue Tie Tuesday, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Tongue Tie Experts podcast. Check out the show notes for useful links about the topics we discussed and for ways to follow us on social media. Please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. And if you enjoyed listening, we'd love it if you'd rate, review, and share with your friends and colleagues. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Tongue-tie cases can be confusing, but what if you had a place to ask questions, learn from experts, and connect with professionals who truly understand? That's exactly what you'll get when you join Tongue-tie Experts Insiders. It includes monthly online meetups with me, Lisa Palladino, expert guest speakers sharing the latest research and best practices, a private community of other professionals ready to support you every step of the way. For just $19.99 a month, you'll never have to navigate tongue-tie cases alone again. Join the community today. Your future self and your patients will thank you. Sign up now at tonguetieexperts.net/insiders.